He flew the Queen of England. He commanded Canada's largest military base. And the morning after he murdered one of his own soldiers, he smiled for the cameras at a charity event, posing in handcuffs while his colleagues laughed. For hours, Colonel David Russell Williams hid behind a furnace in Corporal Marie France Comeau's home, waiting. When she came downstairs looking for her cat, he attacked. He beat her. He documented everything with photographs and videos. And when she begged for her life, he calmly suffocated her with duct tape. 3 days later, he stood at her funeral in full military dress uniform and handed her family a letter of condolence. But Marie wasn't his first victim, and she wouldn't be his last. Williams had been breaking into homes for 2 years. 48 houses where families slept peacefully, never knowing the decorated colonel was in their daughters' bedrooms, stealing underwear and taking photographs of himself wearing it. All while he was living out twisted fantasies with her stolen belongings. His crimes escalated from theft to sexual assault to murder in just 24 months, and he recorded everything. Over 3,000 photographs and multiple videos, organized like a military operation. The most terrifying part? Nobody suspected him. Not his wife, not his colleagues, not the entire nation that trusted him. How did a respected military leader become a monster? What finally exposed him? And what did police find in his home that shocked even the most experienced investigators? This is the story of Colonel Russell Williams, and it will change how you see everyone around you. Colonel David Russell Williams was born on March 7, 1963, in England. His family moved to Canada when he was just a child. His father worked as a scientist at a nuclear research facility in Ontario. Young David grew up in a planned community called Deep River, where educated families lived comfortable lives. Everything seemed normal. Everything seemed perfect. But when David was 7 years old, his parents divorced. His mother remarried a man named Jerry Savka, a nuclear engineer. The family moved to Toronto, where David lived near Lake Ontario. He was a good student. He took piano lessons and trumpet lessons. He delivered newspapers. He seemed like any other kid trying to make his way in the world. As a teenager, David attended an elite boarding school called Upper Canada College. His classmates elected him as a leader in his final year. He was smart, hardworking, and respected. After high school, he went to university and studied economics and politics. During college, he learned to fly airplanes. This skill would shape his entire future. In 1987, David Russell Williams joined the Canadian Armed Forces. He was 24 years old and ready to serve his country. He started as a flying instructor and quickly impressed his superiors. They saw potential in him. They saw a future leader, and they were right, at least on the surface. Williams climbed the ranks year after year. In 1991, he married a woman named Mary Elizabeth Harriman. She had a good career working for a charity organization. Together, they seemed like the perfect couple. They bought a house in Ottawa. They spent time at their vacation cottage on a lake. They played golf. They had friends. They looked happy. By 2004, Williams had become a lieutenant colonel. He was selected to lead an important transport squadron. His job was to fly government officials and foreign dignitaries across the country. He flew Queen Elizabeth II. He flew the Prime Minister of Canada. He flew important people who trusted him with their lives. He was given medals and honors. He was respected by everyone who knew him. In 2009, Williams reached the peak of his career. He became the commanding officer of Canadian Forces Base Trenton, the largest and busiest military airbase in Canada. It was one of the most important positions in the entire armed forces. He was 46 years old. He had achieved everything he had worked for. But something was very wrong. Unknown to anyone, Williams had started breaking into his neighbors' homes back in 2007. At first, he only stole women's and girls' underwear. He would enter houses when families were away or asleep. He would spend hours trying on the stolen items and taking photographs of himself. He kept detailed records of every break-in. He organized the stolen underwear in his home like trophies. For 2 years, he broke into 48 different homes. He returned to some houses multiple times. One young girl's bedroom was visited 3 times. Her parents never suspected anything. The girl even did a school project about the colonel. She baked cookies for him. She took care of his cat. All while he was stealing her personal belongings and living out twisted fantasies. But stealing was not enough anymore. In September 2009, Williams crossed a terrible line. He broke into a cottage where a young woman was alone with her baby. He wore a mask and attacked her with a flashlight. He blindfolded her and tied her hands with wire. He took photographs. The baby slept in the next room while this horror unfolded. Just days later, Williams attended a police conference and accepted an award for his base. He smiled for cameras. He acted completely normal. 2 weeks later, he attacked another woman who lived just a few doors away from his cottage. Same pattern, same mask, same terrible violence. This time, police suspected a different neighbor named Larry Jones. They searched his house. They questioned him. The entire town turned against Jones, believing he was the attacker. But Jones was innocent. The real monster was still free, still wearing his colonel's uniform, still commanding respect. Williams kept breaking into homes, stealing more and more items. He even left a taunting message on one victim's computer, daring her to call police. But his crimes were about to become even worse. On November 24, 2009, Corporal Marie France Comeau finished working a flight where she served as a flight attendant. She was 38 years old and came from a military family. Her father had been a medic. Her grandfather had been a war hero. She was proud to serve her country. Williams knew her from the base. He knew she lived alone. He had been planning. That night, Williams broke into her house and hid behind her furnace, waiting. When Comeau came downstairs looking for her cat, he attacked. He beat her with a flashlight. He tied her up. He brought in lamps to get better lighting for his photographs and videos. He assaulted her repeatedly for hours. At one point, Comeau asked if he was going to kill her. She begged for her life. Williams covered her mouth and nose with duct tape until she almost suffocated. He carried her unconscious body upstairs to her bed. When he went outside to check if anyone was watching, Comeau woke up and tried to escape. She almost made it to the bathroom, but Williams caught her and beat her again. Then he calmly killed her. He removed the restraints and tape, trying to hide evidence. But he left a shoe print in her blood. After murdering Comeau, Williams drove 3 hours to attend a meeting. He acted completely normal. When Comeau's boyfriend found her body the next day, Williams was at a charity fundraiser. His colleagues jokingly pretended to arrest him as part of the event. Williams even posed for photos in handcuffs, smiling. Nobody knew they were standing next to a killer. A few days later, Williams attended Comeau's military funeral. As her base commander, he even wrote a letter of condolence to her family. But Williams was not finished. On January 28, 2010, he noticed a woman named Jessica Lloyd while he was out jogging. She was 27 years old and lived alone on a rural highway. She worked as an administrator for a school bus company. Williams watched her exercising on her treadmill through her basement window. A few nights later, he broke into her house while she slept. Following his horrible pattern, he bound her with duct tape and took photographs. But this time, he did something different. He forced Lloyd into his vehicle and drove her to his cottage on Cozy Cove Lane. For 15 hours, Lloyd suffered at his hands. She begged him for clothes as she shivered. She pleaded for him to take her to a hospital. She asked him to tell her mother that she loved her. Williams told her to hang in there. He made her pose in lingerie for more photographs. He gave her some fruit to eat, all while recording videos of her suffering. Then Williams struck Lloyd from behind with a flashlight and strangled her to death with a rope. He captured it all on video. He hid her body in his garage. The next morning, he flew a troop transport flight to California as if nothing had happened. Later, he dumped Lloyd's body in the woods near his cottage. When Lloyd did not show up for work, her family immediately went to her house. They found her purse and car in the driveway. Her wallet, identification, and glasses were all there, but Jessica was gone. Police launched a massive search. They set up roadblocks across the entire area. They were looking for a silver SUV that had been seen near Lloyd's house. On February 4th, 2010, police stopped Colonel David Russell Williams at one of these roadblocks. An officer noticed something important. The tires on Williams' Nissan Pathfinder had an unusual pattern. It matched the tire tracks found near Lloyd's house. This was the break police needed. 3 days later, on Sunday, February 7th, Williams received a phone call at his Ottawa home. Police asked him to come to headquarters for questioning. They told him it was just routine. Williams agreed. He probably thought he could talk his way out of it. He had fooled everyone for so long. Why would this time be different? But Detective Sergeant Jim Smith of the Ontario Provincial Police was not fooled. Smith was an expert in behavioral science. He knew how to read people. He knew how to get confessions. For 10 hours, Smith questioned Williams. He laid out the evidence piece by piece. The tire tracks, the timeline, the connections. At first, Williams denied everything. He smiled. He tried to act confused. But as more evidence piled up, his confidence faded. Smith told him about the matching tire treads. He told him about witnesses. He told him they had enough evidence to search his properties. Williams knew it was over. Finally, Williams confessed. For 10 hours, he gave complete details about every crime, every break-in, every assault, every murder. He described his twisted desires. He explained his methods. He told police exactly where to find Jessica Lloyd's body. He even drew them a map. When asked why he did these terrible things, Williams could not give a real answer. All he said was that he did not know, and that the answers probably did not matter anyway. He said he was confessing to make things easier on his wife. At the end of his confession, he wrote her a note. He apologized and asked her to take care of their cat. Police found Lloyd's body exactly where Williams said it would be. They searched his cottage and his Ottawa home. What they discovered shocked even experienced investigators. Williams had kept detailed records of everything. There were nearly 3,000 photographs and multiple videos. He had documented every break-in, every stolen item, every assault, every moment of his victim's suffering. He had organized everything carefully, like a military operation. Police found boxes and bags stuffed with hundreds of pieces of stolen underwear and lingerie. Some items belonged to girls as young as 11. There were photos of stuffed animal-filled bedrooms. There were videos of his victims begging for their lives. There were notes describing each crime. His obsession with documentation had created a complete record of his evil. Within 24 hours of his arrest, the case was solved. The evidence was overwhelming. There was no way to deny what he had done. The news shocked Canada and the world. How could a respected military colonel commit such horrible crimes? How could someone in a position of trust be such a monster? Williams tried to kill himself in his jail cell by stuffing cardboard down his throat. He was placed on suicide watch. On October 18, 2010, he appeared in court in Belleville. He pleaded guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder, 2 counts of sexual assault, 2 counts of forcible confinement, and 82 counts of breaking and entering. During the trial, prosecutors showed many of Williams's photographs as evidence. The images were disturbing. They showed him wearing his victim's underwear. They showed him visibly aroused, posing in stolen clothing. Some photos showed cotton panties with cartoon characters. Others showed expensive silk lingerie. The videos were even worse, but prosecutors only described them instead of showing them in court. On October 21, 2010, Justice Robert Scott sentenced Williams to 2 life terms for the murders. He also received 120 years for the other crimes. The judge called Williams's actions depraved and said they had no equal. Williams would not be eligible for parole for 25 years until 2035, when he would be 72 years old. Because he was convicted of multiple murders, he could never apply for early parole under Canadian law. The judge ordered Williams to pay a fine of 8,800 Canadian dollars, $100 for each crime he pleaded guilty to. This money would go to a fund for crime victims. The judge also ordered the destruction of Williams' vehicle, all his photographs and videos, and all the stolen items he had kept. The Canadian military moved quickly. They stripped Williams of his rank, his medals, and his honors. His uniform was burned. His medals were cut into pieces. His commission papers were shredded. His vehicle was crushed and scrapped. These actions were similar to an old military punishment, where soldiers were publicly shamed and expelled. Williams was sent to a maximum security prison in Port Cartier, Quebec. He lives in solitary confinement. He receives a military pension of $60,000 per year, because Canadian law requires an act of Parliament to take away a pension, and this has not been done. Williams' wife, Mary Elizabeth Harriman, did not attend the trial. She later divorced him. One of Williams's surviving victims filed a lawsuit against both Williams and Harriman for $2.5 million. The victim accused them of transferring assets to hide money from legal claims. Shortly after Williams's arrest, the couple had split their property. Harriman kept the expensive Ottawa townhouse while Williams kept the cheap cottage. Multiple lawsuits were eventually settled out of court for undisclosed amounts. The town of Tweed was forever changed. Neighbors who had trusted Williams felt betrayed and violated. The young girl who had done a school project about him had to live with the knowledge that he had been in her bedroom, stealing her belongings. Many people asked how this could happen. How could Williams hide his evil for so long? Experts suggested several possibilities. Some pointed to medications he was taking for chronic pain. Prednisone, a strong anti-inflammatory drug, can sometimes cause changes in behavior and even mental health problems. Williams had been taking this medication since returning from Dubai in 2006. Canadian Air Force guidelines warned that this type of drug was not compatible with flight duties, but nobody had raised concerns about Williams. Nobody knows why Williams became a monster at 44, but this case remains one of Canada's most shocking crimes, proving that evil can hide behind any face, even one wearing a uniform of honor. Subscribe to our channel to be part of this journey. We are committed to telling these true crime stories not for entertainment, but for education. Together, we can build awareness and create safer communities.